Welcome to the Recovery Toolkit podcast. I'm Richie. I'm going to be your host. Throughout the series, we're going to talk to a range of different people who will give you tools and tips to help manage your recovery. The podcast itself is being brought to you by Epic Restart Foundation, who are a national charity who support people to rebuild a positive life after gambling harm. So welcome back to the Recovery Toolkit podcast. This week, we are joined by Aaron Parker, who's also known as the Conscious Man, and I think we'll get into that in a little bit later. But do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Aaron, and who you are and what you do at the moment?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on as well. And yeah, so I run a company called The Conscious Self, and I specialise in nature retreats, breathworks, meditations, and the whole premise behind the business is to help people live life more consciously, open them up to themselves, and be more inquisitive and self-discovery with themselves so they can really understand themselves better and then approach life from new perspectives and new angles and just, really heal, learn about themselves and grow.
Yeah, and I mean, I've followed you for a while. I must admit, I've not been on one yet, but I have been to book on two, but never actually got there because of other things. The thing that I love about it, what you just said there, was pretty much real self-awareness. Mm-hmm. Like, how important is that, do you think, for people in recovery especially?
Do you know what it is? I think like self-awareness is key, and I think that's, like you say, the idea behind the business is to yoke that, is to grow that self-awareness, because within recovery, being self-aware of your habits, of the little triggers, the warning signs of something coming up or cropping up, and yeah, that's where it's at. I think through the meditation and stuff that I teach as well, I think it's really important to do that, because that's what grows that self-awareness.
Yeah, and where did this conscious man idea come from? Tell us a bit about your journey into recovery and what that looked like.
Yeah, so I mean, I had a bit of a rough upbringing, bit of a troubled childhood, which led to a troubled adolescence. Got in a lot of trouble as a kid, a lot of crime, drinking, drugs, led down a bad path, and I just kept falling in and out of it all the time. And sometimes I'd be good, sometimes I wouldn't, and I ended up being in a really bad place. Got myself addicted to drugs, and was in a really bad place. Really, what really saved me was Muay Thai. I found Muay Thai, started Thai boxing with a great group of people, kind of like a family really, a gym called Silipa, but I started at one of the sister gyms, which was Fire Cobra. And through Muay Thai, I found discipline. Discipline fed into other areas of my life. It was like a drip effect, and then I got myself well again, I suppose, and then through that, I got myself to uni. But I'd like to say that it wasn't like a steady path, it wasn't like I found Muay Thai and the penny dropped and I was like healed. It was on and off. It was like compete and then come back to drinking, drugs and party, and then compete again, be clean for a bit. And it was just that cycle. And it wasn't until really I sort of took on the philosophical aspect of Muay Thai and the other things that it led into, such as meditation, breathwork and yoga, that it really, really bolstered down and became, my savior in a way.
Yeah, what I love about that is the authenticity of it. You found something that when you were training for a fight, I imagine you were on it.
Yeah,
you were all in.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then the fight goes, and you lose the purpose.
Yeah,
so to speak.
That's so true.
You lose the purpose to train or to be on the straight and narrow, and you fall back into your old habits.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think sometimes as well, I wouldn't say it became a form of addiction, but I was replacing one with the other, because it was very easy to sort of if you give something, it was all or nothing. And I think that's kind of what addiction is, what it's like. It's like you're all in or you're completely out, And I was all into the fight, it was like a total reason to stay clean, driven, and it's tough, you get a lot of kicks out of it, a lot of lows, a lot of highs. But I would find after I fought, I'd have this amazing win, for the most part I win, hopefully win. I'd hopefully get a win, and then once I'd won, it would fall off, you'd get that amazing elation, and then you'd fall off and feel quite low afterwards. And I didn't really understand that at the time, but just because I wasn't regulating, I wasn't in the right place really.
Yeah, and I think there's so many people in addiction that will relate with that. We do amazing things, and in recovery, for me, I run lots of events with Epic Restart Foundation. And I always say to the guys, after an event, 2 or 3 day event, I need 2 or 3 days to recharge, because you have that lull, don't you? You have that time where you're just like, God, that's took it out of us.
So true.
I'm not kind of an extroverted person, but you have to be a bit extroverted when you run an event. You have to be there, you have to put on the show, so to speak. So that drains my energy, that drains my battery. And, I kind of see that in a lot of people is they come away and they do great, fantastic things. And then back to reality.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I went into rehab, and when I come out of rehab, it was like I've been in a bubble for 28 days. Come out of rehab and back in the real world, and you're like, fuck.
Yeah, what do I do
What
now?
do I do now?
Yeah.
How do I deal with this? How do I deal with all this other stuff? And I think that's where your kind of philosophy and sort of your beliefs around how you live your life now are a foundation for everything else that happens. I think, is that how you would put it?
Absolutely, and I think that's one thing that I am trying to express more as time goes on. Is the philosophy is what will keep you bolstered down, is what will keep you safe, is what will keep you in your good space. I think what we forget is that, like, yes, it's great to go and, I mean, like yourself, you went to rehab and you went into this. It's like a closed environment, like say a bubble, and when you come out, you're thrown back into it. It's the same for events. You know, I go and do an event and like I'm holding space for people. I come away from the event and I'm like, I'm zapped, you know, I'm goosed, and you need to like figure out what's next. You know, you don't want to go back into, I'm not addicted now, but you might go back into binge eating or something like that just to fill that void. But what I'm essentially trying to teach now is not just come and do the breath work, come and do the meditation, but think about where you are morally, your philosophy, your spiritual aspects and stuff. And I think a core foundation of what I teach really is, and a core foundation for life, and everything sort of comes off from the foundation of this platform, is your spiritual teachings and your spiritual practice. And I found that, like, especially when I work one-to-one with people, is that I start at a spiritual practice, because it's okay going to the gym, it's okay reading a book, you know, the knowledge comes in, and like, yes, it might affect you for the moment, but like doing a spiritual practice, being disciplined and devoted to something really, really does help grow the other aspects of your life.
Yeah, and I'm not going to hold my hands up here. Like 12-step recovery was the thing that helped me in my early days massively, you know, and it was what the rehab was based on that I went to. And God was mentioned so much, you know, pray, get on your knees. Like, I was like, this isn't for me. Like, you know, this is a cult, this is all them things. And somebody said, just keep showing up, you know, and I kept showing up and I kept showing up. And eventually the philosophy of 12-step recovery, I guess, kind of planted a seed in my head that allowed us to discover more about myself. And that was a journey of discovery, the personal development journey that I went on after that. But it was that thing, but I had loads of resistance to it. So much resistance to spirituality. And now I see that in a completely different way. So I'm sure there's people listening to this who go, yeah, you're there. Spirituality, there's another one of these wing woo type guys. Yeah. Like, tell us what spirituality is to you, like at its fundamental core, what it's about.
It's like honoring yourself, you know, like I think we've got this, in the model that I'd use is that like we've got our mind and body, you know, and we're fulfilling those things for the most part. You know, people might have a great exercise routine, a great reading routine, learning routine, but there's also that spiritual aspect to yourself, you know, this consciousness and tapping into something that's greater than yourself, you know, and giving gratitude for that and giving gratitude for being here. And I, like you, originally was like anti-God, you know, and through, I mean, I pray every day myself, you know, and I think like it gives me so much solace and so much connection. I think we forget that like we're part of the wider whole, you know, you call God nature, call God, or call the universe, you know, whatever you want to call something you pray to give gratitude and thanks and to ask for forgiveness. Those are important aspects of the human experience.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the big things that attracted me to you were some of the videos you'd been putting out on social media, like in nature and in the woods and cold water dipping and all that sort of stuff, you know, and there's some of the things that I truly believe in. And when I really struggled with this spirituality thing, somebody said it was like, are you bigger than nature? And I was like, well, no, not really. Like, you can't control the weather, you can't control the wind, you can't, all them things. And that helped me to understand that actually I'm not the center of the universe, you know, I'm not the most important thing. And off the back of that was how I eventually was able to forgive, forget, move on, you know, and do all of them other things as well. But that was the thing that massively attracted us to you in the first place. And I was like, this guy's got a bit of what I like, you know, so for that, I think you were like a shining example of what I class good recovery to look like. But I say that everybody's recovery is different, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
You know, I like what you do. Do I do it all? No. You know, I practice some of it. I don't do other bits. Tell us a little bit about the early days. You know, tell us a bit about what that looked like. You know, how did you get to where you are now?
So like, so how did I start what I'm doing?
Yeah, so I know your Muay Thai was a big thing that kind of helped you at the beginning. And then what did that lead to?
So Muay Thai kind of led to discipline, which filtered into other, I suppose, self-development tools. I think once I'd sort of embarked on self-development through Muay Thai, through the discipline, and getting to uni and stuff, I was like hooked. I was like, okay, now it's time to improve other areas of my life. And I think I recognized that, like, yeah, I could train the body and be fit. And yes, it helped my mind quite a lot. It channeled my anger and my aggression. And I felt like there needed to be more, So I ended up doing meditation. Meditation led to yoga. And funnily enough, I was like on the mat and I was having like emotional experiences on the mat where I'd do a yoga session and I'd cry and I'd be like, what is that? I just didn't understand it. And I think, some people might say it's trauma trapped in the body. I don't know, but it was a release of some sort. And through those, it had like a knock-on effect, Muay Thai, it led to meditation, led to yoga, and led to breath work. And I think that's kind of how it's like a trickle effect. It's like recovery isn't a straight road, and it opens up when you start to work on yourself, this self-discovery road. It kind of, you experiment and you learn more about yourself and what resonates with you and how that recovery looks to you.
Yeah, so you mentioned meditation and yoga there. What did they give you? What do you get from them things?
So meditation for me is like, it's a staple. I think it's an absolute staple because we do a lot for the body. You go to not most people, but everyone like wants to go and work out, like maybe they go to the gym 6 times a week, but what are you doing for your mind? How often are you sitting with your thoughts and sitting with yourself? I think I share it a lot. It's like, sit with the things that you're dealing with, and I'm not saying be consumed by them and overindulge in them. I'm saying sit with them, know them for what they are. Even afterwards, write them down, journal about them so you can make them tactile, because when they're tactile, they're more manageable, Meditation for me is a staple because it's part of, your mind is part of who you are. And if you're not, I suppose you could say it's the gym for the mind, really,
Yeah, and I love the simplicity of that, like what are you doing for your mind? Like when do you take it to the gym?
Yeah.
And that's simple. Something you mentioned there, journaling. Anybody that's been through our program at Restart Foundation will get a journal. I'm a big believer in there's power in the pen.
Yeah,
that's what
definitely.
I like to call it. And people say, oh, you should put it on an app. And I'm like, for me, that doesn't quite
I'm the same.
cut the mustard, so get a pen and paper and start writing stuff down. What's the things that you would kind of get people to journal about? What would be?
So if we were doing a one-to-one, one of the first things I would say was, have you got a compelling vision for the future? And 9 times out of 10, people don't. They don't know where they want to be. And Seneca once said, without a port to sail to, no wind is favourable. I think that's very true. Like, if you're not heading the right direction or the direction that you think is right, how do you know where you're going? And I think that's the first thing I asked them to do is write this pen picture of who you want to be and how this looks. I mean, just get involved in the fantasy. You don't even have to, you don't have to figure out the how. Just get involved in the fantasy. Enjoy that process. Write it down and give yourself something to head towards. Something to look forward to even. Yeah,
definitely. I think it's so important, isn't it? Something that I'm passionate about is people working out the values. Work out who you are, where you want to be, and you've got a chance of getting there. If you're still going around the roundabout, I call it, and just trying to put one foot in front of the other every day and not really knowing where you're going, how do you know when you're never going to get there?
Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly.
It's difficult. Something else you mentioned there was breath work. Tell us a little bit about breath work that you do. I know there's so many different types of breath work out there now. We've had a few different people in doing different types, but tell us about the sort of breath work that you do.
So, I do various modalities, but my main breath work or my staple breath work would be pranayama, so one of the limbs of yoga. And I suppose the idea behind pranayama is not so much to enter an altered state of consciousness, but to find stillness and presence. And I think, me personally, like being present and being still and present, it's a beautiful state. And it's also where everything else comes off. Like, you're allowed to, you're more responsive than reactive. You can make better decisions. You can handle your emotions better. Breath work is kind of like a precursor to good meditation, because like breath work gets you into that calm state, regulates the nervous system, creates good heart rate variability, allows you to drop into the moment. And then that's how we meditate deeper and richer and get, find a stiller state. Yeah.
Yes. I love that. So, I love the fact that you've just mentioned nervous system. Tell us a bit about your understanding of how important it is to regulate the nervous system.
Oh, massively. I think for anyone who's been in addiction, they'll know that like having a short nervous system is part that comes with it, and sometimes you're trying to escape that short nervous system. Sometimes you're trying to escape, you know, that feeling of being anxious or depressed or stressed out or whatever it may be, and you might use drink or drugs to manage that. And regulating nervous system, you know, allows you to tap into yourself and tap into your heart rate, your breath. I think it's so important to regulate nervous system.
Yeah, and a lot of people that we work with, you know, they'll feel triggered, you know, at times, and sometimes I still get triggered, you know, I'm sure you do as well. Like, it's part of life, isn't it? But knowing what's actually going on with your nervous system, like fight or flight, you know, knowing that actually there's a way of controlling this. I think that was the biggest thing for me, was going, what's that feeling?
Yeah.
How do I control that feeling? You know, or that feeling's related to fear. Okay, then what you're scared of, let's work it out. Well, actually, something in the future, well, it's not happening now. So how can I manage that through breath work? How can I manage that through meditation? How can I just calm down? You know what I mean? I think that's the thing that massively helped me, was being able just to go, what's that? And ask that question. And once I started asking the question, you start getting loads of different answers, because you sometimes go back in your own head, which is normal, I think, but actually you make sense of it.
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize in that as well, that like sometimes the feeling drives the thoughts, and like you get that feeling of anxiety in your nervous system, and it, like, you know, it sits around here, you can feel it, you know, you're really fluttering, you're looking for reasons to be anxious, you're like looking in the future, looking in the past, and sometimes you think, oh, I've got to change my thoughts. But like, if you change your nervous system, if you manage to regulate that and breathe through that, you'll realize that like it's that feeling that's driving those thoughts, and you're searching for them.
Yeah, it's that whole loop, isn't it? That feedback loop that I think we call it, you know, and a lot of people want to control their thoughts. So sometimes you can you?
No.
Thought's a thought, isn't it? It's
Exactly.
about what do you do next? I think that's the most important thing. And breath work's something that, if you find that your mind is going certain places, breath work, meditation is a way of just bringing your conscious self back to here and now, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, to be honest, breath work is one of the things that I teach the most, because I feel like that actually opens up the window to self-awareness. Yeah. And I think through the breath work, I realized how nervous I actually was, you know, how anxious I used to get. And you probably know yourself, that when you start doing the breath works, you become more conscious of, I mean, it's kind of the reason why I use breath work so much, is because it allows you to be more conscious of your feelings within your body, and then, you know, use the tools that you've been gifted, or you've got, or that you're learning, to regulate that.
Yeah, so one of my first thoughts around meditation was, I need to sit there and empty my mind. And I think that's impossible. Yeah, you know, like it's not possible, but it's no wonder it took us so long to find a practice of meditation and breath work that actually helped us. When people think about meditation, tell us what it is to you. What does it mean to you? Like, tell us what they get in that moment.
So I think meditation is quite hard to explain to everyone, isn't it? Everyone's like you say, everyone understands it as clearing your mind, and it's really not. It's about actually just sitting there, witnessing what's going on in your mind without becoming part of it. And it's not as easy, you know, and every meditation is different. You know, every time you sit down, it's different. You know, sometimes you'll sit and you're like, wow, I'm such a clear vessel today, you know, and I've had a great meditation, and you get up and you're just like, that's great. And sometimes you'll sit and you're like, you can't even concentrate. You know, your body's twitching and you're moving about, and it's like the thoughts are overwhelming. But that's another practice in itself, you know, like you just keep going and keep meditating. And I think that's a true meditation, is just sitting there, being the witness, rather than get involved in stuff, and just letting things pass through you, especially the feelings as well that do come up. And it's sometimes we avoid the feelings and just like, no, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to meditate on that. But actually, you know, they're being presented for a reason. You know, sit with it, allow it to run through you, and just let it go.
Yeah, definitely. For me, meditation, the easiest way I got it, or the easiest way that I could ever understand it, was somebody said it was, every time you think about something, the sooner you can go back to thinking about the breath going in and out of your nose, the better. Yeah. And that was it. And I was like, was that all I have to do? You know, so like these crazy thoughts come in my head. All right, go back to your breath. These crazy thoughts, go back to your breath. Normal thoughts, go back to your breath. Yeah. And that practice ultimately became meditation, you know, and for me it was so powerful. Because earlier you said a lot of people can't sit in discomfort. And I think that is massive in early recovery. You're going to have to be able to learn to sit in discomfort in early recovery, because you always want to go back to the old coping strategy that you used to use just to deal with whatever it is that's triggered you, really. What were some of the early things that you had to sit with?
I suppose like just time alone. I think I was like always looking for something to fill that gap, to fill that time, and whether it be smoking weed, like something to take me away from the present moment. I think it's kind of ironic how now I'm teaching how to be in the present moment, because I think I was so unpresent at the time. I just wasn't in the moment. I was always somewhere else in my head, somewhere else, trying to use a substance to escape from it. And in the early stages, that was probably the main thing, is sitting there and just being alone. And I'm not saying isolation is great all the time, but like being able to sit with yourself and be comfortable is very important. Yeah, very important. Because you kind of can't enjoy other people's company if you don't enjoy your own,
Yeah, and I think there's a lot around you can't enjoy somebody else if you can't enjoy yourself, isn't there?
So true.
And that's, self-love, self-compassion, all of them, self-esteem, all them self things have to come from within.
Yeah.
You have to find them in yourself. And I think for me, when people have the ability to sit and be still, you find out so much.
Yeah, you do. And it's not to say that you can't be around people and and have someone in your life, as long as they're supportive and understand that, you need that space for yourself as well. Like, I suppose holding space comes in many different aspects. Like, you could have a great partner who's understanding and hold space for you and the things that you need to let go of and speak about. I think it's important to flip the script from complaining about something to reaching out for help and looking to people for wisdom and advice and knowledge that they've got the help for you. I think sharing the right stuff with the right people is important as well, because sometimes we share with people who either haven't got the ears to hear it, or they don't know how to handle it, they don't know how to help, or you say it too many times, it's like, wow, I'm switched off now, this person just keeps complaining. So reach out to people for help. Don't just sit on your own all the time, but do come to yourself every now and again, and then sit with yourself and understand yourself. It's a balance. It's definitely a balance.
Yeah, there's definitely a balance. Something you said there is holding space. And I think in society now, there's a big message around mental health. People must talk, talk more, reach out, talk more. And that's only as good as the person that's listening, isn't it?
It's so
and
true.
I think what you just said there, holding space, what's that mean? For people listening, tell us what holding space is to you.
Well, it's a point actually that I really resonate with what you're saying there. Like, it's who you go to, and are you complaining with them rather than actually getting some help, And holding space means to me is a loving, compassionate space where people are heard and with integrity, and like a genuine space held, and a little bit of aftercare too. People forget, like, maybe you go to a retreat, and I think that's great. I often say to people when they come to a retreat, come to a retreat, but do the work when you go home. You might do a heavy breath work and something comes up in that breath work and you're being presented it for a reason, but you are being presented it for a reason, and that's for you to go and work on at home. Like if a meditation, something keeps coming up in your awareness in your meditation, okay, there's some work to be done there, some writing to be done, some exploration to be done. And I think that's what holding space is being there for them at the time, being there for them afterwards, and just making sure you're there with genuine intention of helping people grow.
Yeah, brilliantly put. Something I think we at Epic Restart Foundation, we run events and stuff. I think our USP around these events in this space, in this gambling harm space that we work, is people come, they get loads of different stuff to learn and practice, and they try different stuff out, and then they leave and they go home.
Yeah.
And aftercare is so important, So everyone that comes on our events has got a coach, and then the coach will check in with them and they'll say, what have you been? Where have you been? What have you learned? What are you going to implement in your life now? Let's make a plan, and holding people accountable for that action and that behavior change, for me, is the bit that is very different that we offer, but actually is the bit that really gets people moving forward, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think, how do you do that in your sort of practice?
Honestly, it's very, especially with one-to-one, it's very similar. When people come and do one-to-one work with me, let's say I do call it conscious coaching. It's not so much around addiction, but, leveling up their life in various aspects, clarity, passion, their spiritual practice maybe. And it is that accountability which makes a difference, I think you're not so much holding a hand as you are saying I'm not dogging people. I'm have you done your practice today? I'm how has the practice gone today? You're like, I haven't done it today. Well, that's fine. Just jump it back on it tomorrow. It's the ebb and the flow of that. And, when you're holding them accountable, and also that support as well, that's so important. And for people to feel like they're supported, you're not holding a hand as you were, but you're actually supporting them and sort of just behind them saying, I'm rooting for you, you can do this. Yeah. It's a very, very important.
Yeah, I think there's so many different levels of support, isn't there? you know, and there's a proper, well, I would just say there's a continuum of support, you know, and over here you've got the people who will come and hold your hand, and then you've got the people who'll ask you the questions, and then you've got the people who'll guide you a little bit, and they've all have their place. But I think the true work is when you can create autonomy within people. And if you can help somebody choose the direction they want to go, and you can facilitate that, and you can hold them accountable, and you can offer them a bit of support, then I think it's so much more powerful than
definitely
trying to do it for them or holding the hand.
Yeah, I don't think you can do it for them. I often say when people come to do the coaching with us, you know, like there's a question I ask when we do the consultation call, and it's like, who are you doing this for? And if they say, oh, well, me last says I need to do it, I'm like, we probably can't work together, because in truth, you know, this has got to be for you, and it can only be for you. That's where the change works and matters. Yeah,
I think that's so important, isn't it? That people come to the realization that this is for me. This is my life. And, you know, 22-year-old, I was marched into Gamblers Anonymous by my mum, as she went next door into Gamanon, which was for families. And I marched out when she marched in, you know what I mean? And then I marched back 5 minutes before the end, so she thought I'd been in there the whole time, you know. And that was me first getting help. It wasn't. It was my mum marching us there. Luckily, 12 years later, I reached out for help because I needed it. And it wasn't until that point that you totally surrender, isn't it? And you look in the mirror and you go, I can't live my life like this anymore.
That's a great point to make, the surrender. And I think it's something that mirrors the spiritual teaching, is the act of surrender. And I don't mean surrender as in like, you know, just give up. You know, it's surrender as in like, I surrender the things that are, and then I'm accountable for the things that are, and I'm not in denial anymore, and I just surrender to what is and what will be, and I've taken control of my life in that aspect as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Something I ask everybody that comes on the podcast, Aaron, is what's the 3 to 5 things that you use or do in your life now that massively help you in recovery or life in general? And I know you've touched on a few, but go through them, and these are the kind of takeaways I want people to put in their toolbox or even just attempt.
Okay, so number 1 would be meditation, absolute staple, you know, absolutely. I know we've touched on that before, but I would just recommend that over and over again, you know, sit with yourself, sit with your thoughts and your feelings, and become more emotionally adept and understand yourself better. Number 2 would be maybe pick up some philosophical or some spiritual texts and just get into reading them. I'm not saying you have to become religious. I'm not saying you have to become a devout devotee to an ashram, you know, like just get involved in like, and I think one thing that I really, really, really do enjoy is Stoicism. Now, Stoicism getting a bit of a bad rap at the minute, saying it's making men unemotive and stuff, but it's not how real Stoicism should be practiced. You know, it's about understanding yourself and not losing yourself to fits of passion. And there's so many really good moral principles in there to keep you strong. And I think one to mention here is like how overindulgence in pleasure often leads to suffering, which is addiction. Really, you know. Yeah. So that's a great one to really tap into, some Stoic texts and some philosophical texts. Once you've started meditating, or if you start meditating, try and dip into a little bit of breath work. I recommend the pranayama because it's one you can do every day. It's not too testing, and it taps you back into your nervous system. And as we said before, being in touch with your nervous system is so important so that you don't make rash decisions from fight or flight, you know, drop into your parasympathetic, and where you can rest, relax and recuperate and make more responsive choices rather than reactivity. Number 4 would be connect to nature. Get back out into nature. You are nature. You are nature's consciousness manifest. We could call ourselves the voice of nature, and just really, you know, indulge in it. You know, really get involved in it. Go for a wild swim. Go for a beautiful walk. You could even, you know, add the meditation and breathwork to nature. You know, and yeah, I mean, it stands to reason that we're part of it, so we should be in it as much as we can. And I mean, there's a wealth of science behind forest bathing and stuff like that, where it's good for your immune system, good for your mental health, good for your hormones, and yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Just before you go on, forest bathing.
Yeah.
Tell us what forest bathing is, because there is loads of science out there, but people will be going, what on earth is that?
Yeah, so Shinrin Yoku was like was developed in Japan. I think it was the 70s or 80s, and basically the premise is just to go and be in nature and be very mindful in nature, sort of immerse yourself in the forest. And Shinrin Yoku loosely translates to forest wellness. So, and the idea is just to immerse yourself in nature. And there's loads of beautiful health benefits from being in nature. So for example, like pine and cedar trees, they secrete a pheromone, which actually elicits the production of natural killer cells in the body. So it actually improves your immune system to be out in the forest. The microbiome in the soil helps your microbiome in your body. What else? Yeah, so
if I was saying to you, Aaron, like, I've heard you talk about this forest bathing.
Yeah.
What do I need to do?
Yeah.
Tell us what I would do.
To be fair, it's so simple. It's just go to the woods, go and try and be mindful in the woods, try and use your senses, your try and just like use your touch, use your breath, use your smell, feel the sun on your skin, feel the wind rush past your face, and just try and like encapsulate the moment. Just try and be there and be present.
Yeah. And it is that simple, isn't it?
It is that simple.
Because I know we spoke about lots of different stuff today, but we talk about things all the time in recovery that are good for you, and everybody tries to overcomplicate it, don't they? And I think get back to simplicity.
Yeah, so true.
And some of the times people will go, but what's that going to do for us? I'll say, well, try it.
Yeah, strip it
try
back.
it. Try it yourself. And for me, recovery doesn't have to be complicated. There's no magic pill. The pills were the thing that got us to the problem in the first place. So let's not try and use the same things to get ourselves out of it. You got a fifth one?
Fifth one. Yeah, Muay Thai. go and get into something, especially for men. Like, I mean, it's great for women too, don't get me wrong, but especially for men, we need that physical exertion. We need, and also as well as that, if you find a good gym and a good coach, and I'll say I've had a great coach, Paul Pearson, great coach, taught me so much, not just so much beautiful Muay Thai, but like so much wisdom over the years. And it's like, find a great gym, find a great coach, and men need that physical exertion. There comes a bit of camaraderie that comes from, doing these sort of combat sports as well, especially like boxing and Muay Thai, where you're having to spar against each other and that, like you kind of like got to get over that aggression and stuff, and it humbles you. I'm 12 years in, and I'm humbled every time I go down. I can be fitter. I've just got a kick in it sparring tonight. But it's never out of anger. It's like, okay, I needed that bit of humility.
Yeah, powerful. A lot of the people I've spoke to, I mean, I've never done any sort of combat sports or anything like that, but those that are in recovery that have, they say like you've got to face the fear, haven't you? The fear is getting in and being punched in the face or doing some sort of combat, but it's actually allowed them to face that fear head on. And I think it's such a poignant thing for people to do, is to step in a ring or step on a mat or do whatever it is. And I sit there seeing it without ever done it myself. My sport that I picked up was golf, which is a little bit different, but it gave us purpose, and ultimately that's what it was about for me. It was finding purpose. And I think that's so important. I'm dead competitive, so golf was good for me in terms of like I was always competing against myself, and it was slightly different. So it's down a different sort of path, so to speak, but it's something that now I have passion for, and I can see that in your eyes when you go Muay Thai, it's like that big smile on your face, isn't it? And it's passion, so find the thing that you're passionate about and face your fears,
so
whatever
true.
they may be.
And I think you brought a great point up, and it's like that healthy competitiveness, like that, that's great, you know what I mean? Like give yourself it gives you purpose, and it's funny actually. You think that when you go down a boxing gym or a Muay Thai gym, you're trying to compete with the people in the gym, but actually they've got your back, and you're just trying to like elicit change in everyone else around you, and actually like you're just competing against yourself all the time, no matter how you're sparring, especially sparring. I think sparring's great because sparring for me is like meditation, and it's like competing against someone, but it's like the ultimate game of chess. So it's like it's not. People think that combat sports are quite I suppose hedonistic and a bit barbarous, but they're not. They're really like, you've got really skill, intelligence, and be an intelligent fighter and have fun with it, play the game, work new skills. It's, it's always learning.
Yeah, I love it. And at some point I will give it a go.
Come down, man.
Give it a go. What else do you get from the gym? Because I imagine there's like a community there in itself. And I think that's important for people in recovery as they find a new tribe, a new community, a new place to belong. I bet you get that in abundance from being in the gym.
You do, and I think that was one of the great things about how Muay Thai saved me, is because it gave me a new community and the camaraderie that comes with not just competing, but just being in the gym. The amount you learn off each other. Everyone wants you to learn that. If you're in a good gym, if you're in a gym where like there's some egos there, you might not get the same effect. And I would say leave. Go to a better gym. But that camaraderie that comes from everyone wanting to learn and everyone sharing their knowledge and wisdom and wanting people to get fitter, stronger, become more skilled fighter, or just even if you're just going down for your own personal growth. I think what my trainer always said to me is, coming down the dojo, or coming down the gym is a separate life. So we leave our life on the doorstep, and then we come into the gym. It's a new community, and it's all the stuff that goes on in life. It gets left there, and this is a new life, and you feel all the emotions and all the ups and downs and lows in the gym as well. So we leave everything at the mat.
Yeah, for me, there's so much similarity between recovery with that. I think a lot of people get into recovery and they go, I need to leave all my old friends behind. I can only surround myself with people that are in recovery. And then they're obsessed with recovery, and it becomes unhealthy. And we try and encourage people to go out and find new hobbies and find new things that they enjoy, find new communities, because then you can go back into life, and be part of these other communities that aren't just about not gambling, not drinking, not taking drugs, not being in recovery. Although when I say that, I do think it's important that you have some people around you that are on a similar path, but you can have people around you on a similar path in lots and lots of different areas.
Yeah, true.
And I think that's the thing that a lot of people, think that there's not going to be a life outside of drink, drugs, gambling, but actually the life is so far, far greater. So tell us a little bit about what's next for you, where you're heading, what's going on in your life now. Like, how can people connect? How can people, you've spoke about retreats. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I'm still running retreats. I'm still running beautiful retreats up and down the UK, and beautiful parts of nature, especially the Northeast. I'm from Teesdale, so I do retreats up in Teesdale. Woodland Resets one every month, and then Hampstead Forest. I do quite a bit of Hampstead Forest. I'd go to Winlatter Forest over the lakes and do stuff over there. People can connect with me through my social media platforms to work one-to-one with me. I'm also hosting a retreat out in Spain soon, and not just I'm doing a personal and spiritual development retreat, but I'm also holding a Muay Thai retreat as well with my teacher as well. That's coming up in October, so it'll be all wrapped into one. So it'll be the Muay Thai philosophy, Muay Baran, where it came from, and then we do the yoga and the personal development on top. So that's kind of where I'm heading. I'm hoping to hold more space for more people, do retreats where it's over the weekend. So it's really, a really important thing for me is to really, really hit home with people, not just go and do a retreat and then come away and never, like you say, with people go and learn these skills and they come away and they never do them ever again. I want people to go away with these skills and insight into themselves, so that they've got to practice at home, maybe a bit of devotion, and they can, learn some new stuff about themselves, which they can really build on and grow and elicit change in their life.
Yeah, I love it. And what you said there, I have a big smile on my face, because it's just little light bulb moments going off in my head. When I got in early recovery, all I wanted to do was learn. Yeah. So I was like, I must go there, and I must go there, I must go there. And I was doing all this stuff, and I was watching podcasts and reading books, and a proper geek. And then I was sat there going, well, you've done that with it.
I did the same.
You've done nothing with it. So what was the point? So even now when I listen to a podcast, I'll not listen to another podcast until I've took something from it and I've started seeing how I can implement it in my life. That's kind of where I go. Sometimes it's not every podcast, because you don't take something from every podcast, but reading a book, if I get to a certain part of a book that I go, actually, that really could benefit us, I'll not read more of the book. I'll just start trying to implement that part, and then I'll go back to the book at a later date.
That's important.
And it's the same with events, retreats. I think it's important. It's great that there's these spaces for people to come, like I said, we run them as well. But if you don't actually put it into practice, and I say this all the time, people do the work, and you've touched on this earlier. It's okay giving people tools. It's okay showing people how to do stuff, but they have to go and do it outside of the 1 hour Muay Thai session in the gym, or the 1 hour coaching session that they have. What are they doing the other 23 hours of the day? And that's where you've got to do the work. And for me, sometimes that's doing nothing. You've said sit in discomfort. Sit in discomfort is sometimes doing the work, isn't it? Not acting, not responding, just sitting there and doing nothing.
Yeah, just being with yourself, So important, it's crucial.
Yeah, and that's hard, so I'm not sitting there saying to anybody, sit in a bit of discomfort and you'll be all right, because that's not the case, but sit in a bit of discomfort and you'll probably learn more about yourself than if you would act on discomfort and look for that short-term pleasure.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree with that. And I think it doesn't have to be days on end, you can sit with yourself for a couple of hours, half an hour, learn a little bit more about yourself, go out and then take that out into the world. Yeah, it doesn't have to be punishment. Yeah, and I think this is what we need to bridge the gap between discipline being self-punishment and being self-love, and that's important. Maybe flipping the script from discipline to devotion, because devotion means,
compassion for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally. Aaron, thank you very much, mate.
Thank you very much.
I've
Thank you
loved
for
it.
having me.
I think we've
Cheers,
had a great
Richie.
conversation, and
We have.
hope people have took something from it.
Yeah, thank you
Take
very
care.
much.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Recovery Toolkit podcast. If you took something positive from it, then why not subscribe? If you or somebody you know has been suffering gambling-related harm, why not head over to our website where you can join our community? The link is in the show notes.